Hi, welcome to this edition of How to Q. Today I am in my brother's condo in Florida, and as I was walking around I was noticing a few of the doors were sticking or sagging or rubbing against the door frame, whatever you want to call it, but it was a little difficult to close some of the doors. So further investigation showed that some of the hinges were getting really loose. The screws are basically stripped. So with a little bit with a little bit of Gorilla Glue and some toothpicks and maybe a little longer screw, we can easily fix that. I'm going to apologize in advance. I've got my GoPro, but that's all I've got. My brother doesn't have many tools. I didn't bring my microphone, I didn't bring my tripod, but we're going to make this work. I'll definitely show you how you can fix sagging doors. I'm going to need a little help. I'm going to go wake up my little niece, and I'm going to get her going. I'll come back and then we'll bring her in later. Stay tuned. We'll get these sagging doors fixed. It's very easy. This can be done in an hour or two. You'll see. I'll show you now. One of the things I wanted to mention is if your hinges aren't loose, you may need to just manipulate the door hinge with a wrench. I didn't do that on this one. I didn't need to. Obviously that wasn't my issue. But you can move this left or right, this hinge, kind of bend it left or right to get a little tighter fit if it is starting to sag, especially much older doors. They put in new doors, but they kept the old screw holes. And once you unscrew something and screw it into the same hole, it's never going to hold like it did the very first time. So that's the issue here. We'll fix that now. And here I'm just trying to illustrate. You can see that the top gap is wider than the bottom gap, which is right up against that wood, which is going to just constantly rub, obviously on that side and the other side. And I'm trying to do this one-handed, so I apologize about the view, but these screws were just turning in place. Those are 5/8 inch screws. And if I wouldn't have had a magnetic Phillips head on my drill bit, it would have been a little harder to pull out, but man, they were loose. So here are some of the screws I pulled out, all different shapes and sizes, which means these were replaced at one point, which stripped the holes. That's why that hinge is loose. I went to Home Depot. I bought 2 packages of number 9 screws. They were 98 cents each. They had 2 1/4 inch screws and 1 inch screws, and they're going to replace those tiny screws that I pulled out. Okay, so you saw that there were random lengths of screws in here. All of these were stripped. So I had to go out and get actually longer toothpicks like I showed earlier. And so what I'm going to do is basically throw some Gorilla Glue on these. I've got some paper towels to cover this up. And with the longer ones, obviously I'm putting more glue on those, and I'll put these in here for a couple hours. And then if you follow me down here, stick it in here, and we'll end up breaking these off, but I'm going to shove them in here and let them sit, and then I'll clean those up. So I'll fill in the rest of these and we'll come back. All right, here's the before. You want to definitely clean off the excess Gorilla Glue when it starts seeping out. This is what it looks like afterwards. You can obviously cut that off with a razor blade, or in my case, a steak knife. I just wanted to show you that before we actually remove it. So it's been about 4 or 5 hours. You only need about an hour or two with Gorilla Glue, but my assistant was at her vocational school, and now she's off to help me. So come on in. Okay, this is my niece, Darby. And she is going to help me. All we're going to do is just kind of score these. You could probably just knock this off, but so I'm just going to score this and break it off. Now here you go, Darby. So did you see what I just did? Yeah. So just trying to repeat that. Don't hurt yourself. So all you got to do is just make a little bit of a cut in it, and then you can break it off. Yeah, that's good. And then we'll clean it up, and I'll just clean it up real quick. I'll speed through the rest of this, but really you could just don't even score it, just break it off is what I found, and then just clean it up so you can put the hinge, so the hinge actually lies flat against that door frame once you start screwing it in. We're going to get the door back on and screw it in and tighten it up, and it should be good to go. So like I said, time to put back on that door. The middle hinge was fine. It was the top and the bottom where the holes were stripped. So that made putting this door back on a lot easier, and part of the decision to actually remove it. When I'm inserting the screws, I'm using the 2 1/4 inch screw in the top and the bottom holes of each hinge and the 1 inch screw in the middle one. I couldn't find gold plated or brass screws that were all long or all short. I had to buy a package of those 2 different sizes. Only 98 cents, so that's why I bought the 2 packages. It worked out really well and was extremely snug when I was done. And once all the screws are back in and the door's back on, it's time to freely open and close with no snagging, no sagging. Okay, my enthusiastic assistant can't wait for us to be done. So this is it. We're going to close the door on this one. So you can just see how this is just so much better all the way around. All right, that was pretty easy. Just give it some time. You let this glue settle for an hour or 2 hours, or in our case, it was about 4 hours. We took a longer break. But man, with the toothpicks in this, these are in solid. They are no longer sagging. You can do this. It's an hour project. It's pretty easy. A little help helps. Get that? So that is it from here. Please check out my channel. I would love you to like this, and if you subscribe, click on that bell. That'll notify you when I put out new videos. I'm always putting out new videos, and I promise better audio. I promise. Anyway, thanks for watching this edition of How To Q. We'll see you next time.